The Photos app in iOS 18 aims to simplify, but ends up being a more confusing hodgepodge of design than it ever has been before. Unless these designs are revised, I think there will be significant backlash when the update is released. Here's why. So let me start this out by acknowledging that yes, iOS 18 is still in beta and is very likely to change before release. That's why I'm writing this as more of a wish list of changes, not as a criticism of a final product. In fact, all of my criticisms have also been submitted as feedback through Apple's official feedback channels. By Beta 3, there have already been a few tweaks and improvements, but there's been no movement on the bigger picture problems with the design. So let's take a moment to look at what it's trying to do, where it succeeds, and where it falls short. I don't think the new Photos app needs to be entirely thrown away, but a few key things need changed. The problem with the current Photos app is that it's organized into this tab view that nobody really uses. There's both the Library tab, and there's also the Recents album, and most people don't know the difference between the two. The Library tab is actually sorted by dates where the images were created, and the Recents album is sorted by date added to the library. Most people just stay in one of those two views 100% of the time. In what Apple Press describes as its biggest ever redesign, there's no more tab bar. When you open the Photos app, you can scroll up to see your library, or you can scroll down to see your collections of people and pets, the map, memories, and more. The resting position of the app is sort of the spot where the two areas meet. And this aspect of the design works really well. You can scroll up and up and up through your library and instantly jump back to the bottom just by tapping the X. And similarly, you can scroll way down through the list of collections and jump right back to the top by tapping the toolbar. The biggest problems with the design are with how Apple has designed this lower section of the app. Again, the broad design of the app is that you scroll up to see your library and scroll down to see your collections of stuff. But sometimes, inexplicably, when you scroll down, your library also scrolls away to the left. So you go back up and you don't see it anymore. Well, how do you get it back? If you're really eagle-eyed, you'll notice a series of white pagination dots around the bottom. That indicates that you need to scroll left or right a random number of times until you see your library again. This feature is called the Carousel, and I find it absolutely bizarre. I can't imagine how I will have to explain to somebody how to get their pictures back when they inadvertently swipe it away. And the most frustrating thing is that the items in the carousel are the exact same things as you can see in the list of collections below that you can just scroll down to see. I don't know why it's there. It doesn't serve any new function or purpose. And sure, the carousel is customizable, but it can't be completely turned off. And the very people who are most likely to be confused by its design are the least likely to customize the Photos app. Here's another confusing decision. Immediately below the most recent items in your photo library, you see another section with the most recent items in your photo library, organized by dates. You can tap on a day, and it'll filter out pictures like receipts, documents, screenshots, images saved from the web, etc. This seems to fundamentally misunderstand what people liked about the Recents album in the Photos app. The Library tab is for the pictures you've just taken. The Recents tab is for the pictures you've just saved. The picture you downloaded from Safari, the video your brother sent you over messages. You always know that in the Recents tab, they will be immediately accessible. Recent Days doesn't do this. Now, there is a spot in the Photos app where you can find this called Recently Saved, but it's buried very far down below. It's very easy to overlook. While it's also possible to sort the library above by date added rather than date captured, it's not obvious. It took me several days to figure that out on my own, and I do this for a living. I think the solution here is really obvious. Switch out Recent Days for Recently Added. That way, as soon as you open the Photos app, you can scroll up to see your library chronologically sorted above, and you can still immediately see that picture you just saved below. In the old design, the search feature was really prominent. It was one of only 4 tabs in the bottom tab bar. In the new design, it's been demoted to a tiny little button way up in the toolbar. In this most recent third beta, they made the button more prominent by coloring it blue instead of gray, but it's still really hard to reach with one hand. It's still a demotion from before. With how powerful the visual search is, and with how much more powerful it will be with Apple Intelligence, the search field should be made more prominent. It should be a full-size text box between the library and the collections, where you can reach it one-handed. The collection of images below looks less like an organized set of memories, albums, and media types, and more like a kitchen junk drawer. There's just way too much stuff here. People and pets, one of my favorite features, actually deserves to be there without any changes. Memories, which is a list of intelligently generated albums of people and trips, followed by trips, which is the same thing as memories, but only for trips. Pinned collections, a customizable set of different collections inside the already customizable list of different collections. Featured photos, which is like memories and trips, except it only shows one picture at a time. Albums, a list of your manually created albums. Inexplicably, it only shows 2 on screen at a time. Media types, a quick way to find panoramas, slow-mo videos, animated GIFs, time-lapses, and more. This is an incredibly useful feature, but all of the more interesting categories are on the 3rd or even 4th tab. Utilities, which is where you can find hidden photos, duplicates, recently deleted, alongside a bunch of really cool new categories like documents, illustrations, receipts, recently viewed. But again, unfortunately, it only shows 4 on screen at a time, and all the cool new categories are hidden off screen where you won't find them. And finally, wallpaper suggestions. Based on the pictures in my photo library, all of the suggestions are pictures of my dog Indy and various Italian landscapes. Absolutely perfect, no notes. One last quibble I have with this design is that Apple inconsistently uses an interface element called the Modal Sheet. If you tap on a collection like Recent Days or People and Pets, a slide-up sheet will appear from the bottom. Personally, I prefer the old navigation detail view that slides in from the right, because swipe to go back from the left edge is a universally understood gesture. But at least with this modal sheet, there's a big obvious X button in the top, and the modal sheet has a little bit of the background peeking through on the top, so you can intuit that you can swipe down to get back to where you were before. Tapping on a specific item inside that collection, like Griffin or Athens, October 2023, also brings up a modal sheet, but one that looks and works completely different. For example, you can swipe left and right between them to navigate through the collection, but there are no pagination dots on the bottom to indicate that's possible, and the sheet completely fills the top half of the screen, so it's not obvious that you can swipe down to go back. And the close button is much smaller and harder to see as well. Now, these screens do look pretty cool, but there should be a few more visual affordances to teach you how it works. So all things considered, here's my feedback. Get rid of the carousel. It's redundant at best and confusing at worst. Swap recent days for recently saved. Simplify the collections. You can condense memories, trips, and featured photos into one for simplicity. Make it more visually obvious that albums, media types, and utilities are paginated lists, and make it easier to see more of them at once. Finally, make the search button a full-size text field between the library and the collections. It has a gorgeous full-screen user interface that's really starting to grow on me. It's a shame to keep such an awesome feature hidden away in the toolbar. And that's my feedback. Apple luckily has a lot of time to implement these changes before September. If you've tried out the Photos app, let me know what you think in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe. I'm Griffin Jones with Cult of Mac.